Hello, hello. Welcome to the posing room. It has been a little while since I've done a video. The last one I did was a few days before the Olympia, where I did my predictions. And I almost got it right, almost. But there were a few surprises. Um, I watched the whole thing live and I screen recorded the whole bikini section. And my aspiration had been to watch it all, and like share with you all my favorite posing routines and sort of go through them. Did not realize what a mammoth task that would be, if I'm honest. All those videos are clogging up my memory on my PC. Um, but also, and I mean this with absolute love, and I'll go into why all of this in a second. I was a tiny bit disappointed with the posing this year. A tiny bit, not like massively disappointed. But what I mean is, like, usually at the Olympia, that's when the girls dial it up. That's when we see like some really extravagant, like new moves. Lauralie always comes in with like something, you know, that we haven't seen before for her entrance. And as a posing coach, I was all for it this year. Like, I love that. And there wasn't really much of that. Even Lauralie, um, didn't do as much as she usually would at the Arnold's. And I was a little bit confused. Maybe, like I said, disappointed. Like, that sounds like I'm, like I said, slating them, and I'm not. But I was a bit like, what's going on here? And also, a lot of the girls looked a little bit nervous, a bit more nervous than usual. Even some of, like, like the big names looked a tiny bit more nervous than usual. And again, I don't want to be here all judgy because my God, it's the Olympia. I get nervous enough on a little stage, and like no one is immune to nerves. But it just seemed like something was going on for me. Um so all that, and the fact that also I've only came out of prep a couple of months ago and I'm trying to catch up on studies and stuff. I've been a bit slack in doing something, a video for this. Um, then a couple of weeks after the Olympia, Lauralie posted something, and in the small print at the bottom, she went into a little bit more detail as to maybe why people looked a bit nervous and there wasn't as much extravagant posing. And it turned out that before they went on stage, they were told that they had 45 seconds to do their routine. 45. Um, that's a lot for an amateur. That is not a lot for a pro. And again, when I was watching it live, I was like, not many people are doing the walk to the back. Um, so that's why. And not only is it hard to cut down a pro routine to 45 seconds, um, but probably doing that maybe on the day, show day, is a little bit nerve wracking as well. Um, I'll go into what I was going to say about that in a little bit more detail in a second. But let's have a look at some of the routines. So if this is the first time you've seen Lauralie pose, you're going to be like, oh my God, that's incredible. What's he only talking about? And this is incredible. And I want to keep caveating. I'm not, like trying to tear anyone down. I'm just saying, like, compared to how she usually is, I was like, where's the new move? Um, Obviously, if you know Lauralie and have seen her posing at the Arnold's and stuff, which is absolutely breathtaking, this is still breathtaking, but you'll understand what I'm saying. So this is Lauralie's routine. So here's the middle. Oh, no, it doesn't stop. That's annoying. So she walks in, and usually, like in a pro routine, you would walk to the middle of the back, do a pose, and then walk to the front, do your routine. Then you would walk to the back, do a couple of poses, walk back to the front, and walk off. And Lauralie usually comes in, stops at the back, and that's when she has some kind of new entrance that we've never seen before. And I was like, ah, and it just wasn't there. She just went straight. Oh, Yeah, she just went straight to the front on this one. Still gorgeous though. Look at it. Also, what a song to come on when you're doing your routine. Oh my God. Stunning. Lauralie's. So, like I said, I'm not slating that at all. Like it's beautiful, it's stunning. I just like, yeah, I was waiting for that big stop at the back entrance that she does, and it wasn't there, and I was a little bit confused. So yeah, she said on Instagram later that they had told her 45 seconds. So she was like, I just showed, did a couple of strong poses and left, showed my best, which is, what you've got to do. Um, so I wanted to like talk about this because a couple of things. So at the pro level, this could be important because when we see things happen at the Olympia, often they trickle down into, you know, the other pro shows. And I know that some of the pro shows, I said, I mean, bikini is one of the biggest divisions, and some of the pro shows we're seeing like lineups of 30, 70. I did a show earlier on in the year, and I think there was 35 of us. It's a lot of people. Um, so we could well start seeing the judges say before you go on, you've got 45 seconds to do your routine. Um, and then at the amateur level, I mean, we are usually told that we have 15 seconds. Um, Now, in the UK, especially, the shows have been quite quiet this year. It's a bit of a cost of living crisis going on. They've been a little bit quieter, and we haven't seen the sort of 40 odd stacked lineup of bikini girls at shows that we used to see year on year, show on show. So they have had a little bit more time. They've been given sort of 30 seconds at a lot of these shows, which is great because you get to really, really showcase yourself at that. So it's always good as an amateur to have a little extra in your bag, or practice slowing things down if you get to a show and it's quite quiet, because sometimes they will say take your time, and if you've practiced 15 seconds, uh, you know everyone else is getting a bit more airtime for you than you. On the flip side of that, I did a show as an amateur in the Philippines years ago. It was like 2018 or something. And the show ran so late. We were supposed to be on like for prejudging at like 10 a.m. And no joke, we got off prejudging at something like 8 p.m. And the show went on until like midnight. And Sandy, bless her, was very apologetic. But as we were going on, she was like, you've got 10 seconds. They were like, literally just show front and back. And I'm a very nervous poser. I do get really, really stricken with stage nerves. And that knocked me a little bit. So why am I saying all this? Like I said, as an amateur, try and keep your routine to the 15 seconds, practice that. But it is good, as I said, to practice slowing it down if you get more time. But also, as an amateur, and I think now myself as a pro, us pros at the pro level, we also need to maybe practice, not necessarily a second routine, but practice ways of being able to cut it down, and that's going to be taking out a few moves. So for amateurs, when I teach amateurs, and some of them are really struggling to get down to the 15 seconds, in the rules for the amateurs, it only says you have to do one front pose and one back pose, and that's it. So most girls, when they're learning, they do a front pose, then they transition, model pose, photography pose, into the back pose, then back to photography pose, model pose, then they go back into a front pose, then they sign off. So often I teach girls literally to just do front pose, model pose, photography pose, back pose, and then just come straight back round, sign off, don't even do the second front pose and walk off. And that will save you some time. So like I said, like be a bit flexible. Obviously, if it's your first show, just do your best. It's like don't worry too much. But if you've been doing this a while, have a few tricks in your bag. Like I said, maybe an extra move or something really sassy if you've got more time. But know how to cut that down. Um, I'm not going to be competing in 2025, I don't think. But when I teach other girls. Occasionally, I get the odd pro as well that I've been coaching. And when I do come back, I will definitely make sure that I practice something that's a little bit shorter for my routine because mine can get a bit flamboyant as well. And for a pro, that might be like Lauralie not stopping at the back, might be just walking straight to the front. A lot of girls, as I said, didn't walk to the back in their routine. They just did everything almost like an amateur routine, just with a little bit more flow and a little bit slower and a little bit more glam. Front, back, front again, walked off. You know, so be flexible in your approach. Practice a few different things because there's nothing worse than on show day walking onto stage and being told you've only got, 5 seconds or 15 seconds than you usually would have. Um, so yeah, that clears that up for me. And as I said, I want to reiterate, it's still beautiful posing. I mean, she won Miss Olympia. I absolutely love her posing. I love her physique. But I was just a bit like, what's going on here? Something's different with everyone this time. So that's Lauralie. Let's move on. Okay, Jazzy. Jasmine Gonzalez. She was the dark horse of this show. Um, she came in and I think she got fourth. Yeah, yeah. Um, I love Jazzy. Like she is probably up there almost as my favorite poser. Like I have a few, like maybe top four posers in the world, and they've all got completely different things going on that I love. But she is in the top four, if not maybe the top for me. Um, and she looked absolutely fantastic. She posed absolutely beautifully. Again, with Jazzy, like she's usually quite a risk taker, and she does quite a kind of I don't know, I call her style street style. Like she's really, there's lots of poppy stuff usually going on with her posing. Everyone has a style to me. Like Lauralie is kind of like Hollywood glamour. That's Hollywood glamour. And Maureen is like the jungle cat warrior queen. Like the way she just moves, it's so animalistic. I just love it. And Jazzy's, yeah, like she's a bit street and like edgy and like poppy. But I've got her routine here as well. Like I said, it wasn't the usual poppiness. And maybe she toned it down because she knew she like I've got a real chance here, and I don't want to do anything risky. Or maybe, you know, it was just that things had got shortened. But I love it just the same. Her ratios are mad, aren't they? Here she would usually do some kind of like pop. Of it. So yeah, Lauralie, winner. Um, Amazing. Jazzy, top four, but like definitely one of the top four, if not the best poser on the planet in my mind. When she like does her stuff on Instagram, I'm like, damn. All right. So moving on, we're back to Lauralie. So before we wrap up this little video, Tyler Mannion did feedback for all the girls, all the top girls, and he posted that on Instagram. And if you're fairly new to competing and you've watched this, if you haven't watched it, oh my God, like do follow him and like watch the stuff that he puts out about, you know, all the pro shows and why the girls placed the way they did and, you know, their feedback, because it's invaluable. But also, again, if you're new to this, you don't know how lucky you are right now, because this is a fairly new thing. Tyler took over the year I won my pro card, 2022, I think. And he has really, really, really been pushing, you know, like educating all the girls on the standard and bringing the standard up. And he's, you know, no one used to do these videos, and it's great because bikini is really the toughest criteria, the toughest category, I think, to compete in. Everyone thinks because we're not as muscular as everyone else, it's easy. I think some of these girls are pretty muscular. But it's very subjective, you know, we've got to be muscular, we've got to have definition, but not too much definition, not too much muscle. It's got to be in proportion. You know, and someone who has perfect proportions on one girl and another girl has perfect proportions, but they can have completely different physiques at the same time. You know, like one can be tall, one can be short, different limb lengths. You know, it's just really, really hard to judge. So what Tyler's putting out there is really, really helping us. You know, I've been doing this 8 years now, and I'm only just really well, most of us are only just really starting to understand what is expected of us. And it's, you know, it's tough. So watch those. So anyway, I digress. He did some feedback on Lauralie. He did a little bit of feedback on her physique. I won't go into that because this is the posing room, even though that was interesting. But he had a little bit of feedback on her posing, and that was that when she did her walk to the back, he felt like her glutes could pop a little more, that they sort of flattened out a tiny bit. That's the only feedback he had about her posing, because it was incredible. I think I've clipped it to that. So popping. It's so dense. And then a little bit flatter. A little bit. It's just a tiny bit flatter, you know, it's not, but she's got like the best glutes in the business. So how do we fix that? Here's a nice learning point for us all. So I did a post on the posing room, must have been about 3 months ago, a few weeks out from my last show, and hopefully you can see it here. This was more about the back pose, but the same sort of rules apply, right? If you stand quite upright in a back pose, right, all these four poses here, they're exactly the same person, me, on exactly the same day, like literally seconds apart from each other. I know the lighting's slightly different on them all. The studio had crazy disco lighting that was changing, but they were exactly taken the same point in time. And you can see the complete difference in the shape of my glute, depending on how I held myself. So in the back pose, if we're standing up really tall with our, you know, sort of our, I would say neutral pelvis. If you're a lifter, you must be a lifter if you're watching this. But neutral pelvis, so like, you know, glutes sort of tucked in neutrally. It's really going to flatten out your glutes. You're not going to see much upper glute projection. You won't see quite as much ham tie-in, depending on how much glute density you have. I obviously don't have Lauralie's glute density. So, you know, it looks a little bit flatter there. If you do your back pose with a bit of anterior tilt, so that is like pulling your tailbone up high. It's not pushing back like these two in the middle, like almost bending over. We're still quite upright in our torso. We are very upright in our torso. We're just like tilting that pelvis back. So think tailbone high. And you can see that along with like, I was pointing my toes out a tiny bit more there. You can get a real nice bubbly glute and make your glutes look so much bigger and get so much more projection and density and 3D-ness to them, especially in the upper glute. So that's what you would do in a back pose. And you would hold that same principle when you walk to the back as well, if you want to get a little bit more 3D poofiness going on. So when we walk towards the judges, we tend to walk fairly fast. We want to get to the front and do some posing. When we walk away, we slow it down a little bit. One, because they want to take in our glutes that we've spent so much time working on, but also we don't want things to wobble. When we're walking in that back pose, having that pelvic tilt will help with wobbleness. You know, it will hold it a little bit more taut, a little bit more tension in the glutes. So we walk slower as well, a little bit of sway, a little bit of pelvic tilt, and that gives that nice like three, gives us that like 3D look as we're walking. I tried to find an easily accessible video of me doing that, but I can't, and I don't want to deal with the memory issue on my PC. But take it from me, that is how we would do that. I hope this has been somewhat helpful. Things are a little bit slower on the posing front now. Obviously, we're heading towards Christmas. I'm still doing posing coaching if you'd like to keep it up through the winter months coming into the new season. Obviously, that's the perfect time to do it. I still do have some hardcore girls doing it, but I'm not as manically busy as I was during summer whilst I was prepping. I am studying as well, and I do prep coaching too, but I am endeavouring to try and post a bit more content now that things are less crazy for the next coming months. So subscribe, stay tuned, and if there's anything that you want to know about, I really enjoy doing this stuff, and sometimes I'm like, what should I say today? So let me know. Talk to you soon. Bye.